Podcasting is more than just talking. It's listening. BSing with Bob Schmidt.
The BS with Bob Schmidt podcast featuring entrepreneurs, business people, and marketers. And with me this week is an entrepreneur, a marketer, a business person, an author, a podcaster. Ravi Jayagopal is joining me. You're an author, you're an entrepreneur, you're a marketer. You've got a long list of things that you do.
Yes. Also add to that, the coolest geek on the planet. If you go to Google and search for coolest geek on the planet, my name comes up first.
Does it really?
Yes.
How did you manage?
Yes.
How did you manage to get to be the coolest geek on the planet?
It's just getting the domain name coolestgeekontheplanet.com.
Oh, okay. So you're hedging your bets, and you ended up buying it and pointing it that way. You know, it's funny because a lot of times you buy a domain name, like I own lacrossewisconsin.com. And it's on page 2. I own bobschmidt.com, and I'm not the first person on there. You know, so how do you end up getting like that top of mind and top of Google awareness?
For the coolest geek on the planet was just a fun thing. Just to have a story to tell, right? And I can say in my emails, and it's just a fun thing to say. Hey, I'm also the coolest geek on the planet, right? So Google gives a lot of importance to keywords that match domain names for the most part.
All right.
And because I've already hosted a website for a long time, and I've mentioned it in a couple of other websites pointing back to coolestgeekontheplanet.com with those specific keywords and pointing back to the domain name. So it doesn't take much because there are not too many people branding themselves as coolest geek on the planet.
That's
but
true.
More of a fun thing than as an actual marketing thing because there's nobody going out there and searching, let me see who is the coolest geek on the planet.
So what makes you the coolest geek on the planet, Ravi?
It's because I've been doing this for a long time, and I have created a lot of content, been selling online since 1997. And I've tried a lot of different things. I've been through the whole 9 yards, right from being an immigrant entrepreneur coming to this country to the United States in 2000, and then working my way through to a green card and then getting a citizenship. So I've gone through the whole hustle and nights and weekends and hard work and sleepless nights and sleeping 4 hours a day. So I put in a lot of work, and you can say, it only took me about 15 years to become an overnight success.
Isn't that usually the case, though? Isn't it usually somebody says that, yeah, I'm an overnight sensation or overnight success? It only took me 20 years to get here.
Exactly.
So what pushed you to become an entrepreneur?
So growing up, my late father, he was a film director and writer, and he always worked from home, and he was an entrepreneur at heart. He started a whole bunch of businesses. He started a school, which went on to become very popular, and there was a huge philanthropic angle to it. He gave free education to a lot of kids back in India. So I always saw that, my friends' parents, they were working, they came home late, they couldn't go anywhere with them after they came back from work, they were tired. But my dad, he was ready to go with me, for a movie anytime, of the weekday. And, he was ready to do things with me, and he was always available. And that was always at the back of my mind that when I grow up, I want to be the same. It's pretty much, what your parents ingrained, whatever they teach you and what the culture is growing up. So that was always a part of my DNA, to be my own boss, to control my own time, to have the freedom to do what I want to do, to be able to spend time with my kids and my wife and my family. So that's what led me to a furious 10 years of trying to become an entrepreneur. And I had to go through a whole bunch of hoops to do that, but I eventually got there.
I've been following you on Facebook for a couple of weeks now, and you had something posted last week. It said like only 64.7 hours in. And is there an app or something that you go on that basically counts your time that you're, doing your you're working for yourself, your entrepreneurship skills and time?
Yes. On my desktop, there's a app. It's a free app called Rescue Time. And you just install it, and it just monitors the websites you go to, how much time you spent. It even tells you at the end of the week, on Sunday night, you get an email saying you spent so many hours on YouTube, so many hours on Facebook, all these websites, and you can categorize them as this is work, this is play, this is entertainment, and then you can see how productive you were this past week and how many hours you were actually at your computer and what you were doing. So it gives you a great sense of how productive you've been, what you've been spending time on, what you've been wasting time on. It allows you to recalibrate your work every week.
So, Ravi, how productive are you, did you find?
This past week, I've been very productive. For the most part, I've been super productive this past week, but for the most part, I'm very productive. Even when I go on Facebook, it's get in, get out. One of the things I always teach and preach is being able to monitor everything, right? Because what gets tracked gets monitored, and what gets monitored gets improved, and what gets improved gets optimized. So I like to track everything, and I like to keep track of what I'm doing, how long I've been doing stuff. And thankfully, right now, there's a new feature in the latest iOS version that shows you how much time, I think it's called screen time. It shows you how much time you spent on the various apps. So it's going to get, I'm going to get even more organized and optimized. I love to make sure that I'm spending time only on the things that I care about. And I don't like, for example, going on Facebook and posting a lot of GIFs and memes and asking people, answer with a GIF how you feel, answer with a meme how you feel, what your day is up to. So there's a lot of content on social media, which is, obviously it's social media. It's meant to be social. But when you have only so much time, you have one life to live, and you have miles to go to get to where you want to go, you have to be able to optimize things.
Well, I think that a lot of people have a hard time with that piece right there, with not stepping over the line and not being on social media as much as they can. How do you focus on getting that stuff, getting all that noise out of your head and out of your mind for the day, and focus in on just the things that need to be done? As an entrepreneur, that's something that I think a lot of us need to know and would love to learn how to do better.
Right. So it comes from, early on in my career, I was having a full-time day job. I used to work in New York City for a while. So I was taking the train, going, spending an hour and a half each way, and then I had to take the subway. So when you have limited time to work on your dreams and on your passion projects, you have to be super productive, because there's absolutely no time to waste. You come back home at 6:37, and then you have kids to deal with, family stuff, take care of things. And then I used to go down to my basement. I had a basement in my New York house, and I used to work from like 10 o'clock to like 3 o'clock in the morning, because I had only that much time to actually fully focus on creating a project and getting it to the point where I could quit my day job, right? Ultimately, that's the goal. If you're an entrepreneur, you're always feeling like if you have a day job and your goal is to become a full-time entrepreneur, then you always end up feeling like you're living somebody else's life. You're in somebody else's body, because you can see all these things happening and you're not there, because you want to be able to do the thing that you do, that you love to do. You want to do it all the time. So when you become a full-time entrepreneur, it kind of carries over, that because you have put in so much hard work, hustle, discipline, and it takes a lot of work, because now when you have a full-time day job and you have family and you have a house to maintain and clean and take care of so many other things to do, then you start optimizing stuff, and you have to start cutting out stuff. It's just like somebody who is overweight who's trying to lose weight, right? So you start with, okay, I can get rid of the bagel in the morning, and then I can get rid of this and that. You start cutting down on carbs. So slow, and then you start adding a little bit of exercise, and so you constantly tweak and you monitor your weight, and you see what's working, what's not working. So by the time you are able to become a full-time entrepreneur, it's kind of like a catch-22, because if you're not already disciplined, and if you're not already super focused and coordinated and passionate about things, you're not going to get to that point. And once you get to the point, your hunger automatically increases. You want to do better, you want to do more, you want to reach more people, you want to change more people's lives, you want to be adored, you want to be followed, want fans, you want customers. So all those things follow, and every time you go on social, you have to be kind of ruthless at times. I still do, comment on friends' posts and cute and cuddly warm pictures and cute cat videos and pet videos. I still do that.
That's what the internet's for, right?
Exactly. That's what social media is for. But at every point of time, you have to remind yourself, what is your goal? So as long as every day you wake up and you have this burning desire, it's like a clock ticking. And then the biggest difference between, entrepreneurs and regular people is there's always a clock ticking in the back of your mind. Now, it doesn't even have to be a full-time entrepreneur. Even if you're a part-time entrepreneur hustling on nights and weekends, there's always a clock ticking. So you tend to get out of parties the quickest. You tend to not go to as many parties. You tend to watch fewer TV shows. You tend to binge less. So automatically, it's like your overall desire and your burning passion and how quickly you want to get to where you want to get to, that kind of, it flows from the top. And so it's a top-down thing. It all starts with, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? What's your goal? What's the end goal? What do you want to achieve in life? How furiously do you want to get to where you want to get to? And it all flows down from there.
Ravi is a serial entrepreneur and came up with a program, Digital Access Pass, which is a plugin for WordPress, which a lot of people have for their platform, for their website, and subscribeme.fm, one of his other websites. But making, marketing, and monetizing your content, I think that a lot of us are creators of content, and personally, I'd love to be able to figure out how to monetize my content. Is that a possibility for anybody, Ravi?
Absolutely. If you look at the online e-course and online training market, I think it's like a few $1 billion worldwide, whether it's coaching, consulting, online courses, software, SaaS products. So yes, it is possible. It is getting harder to get traction if you're getting started. But you just, again, it all comes down to, some of the most successful people in this world are those who start out saying, I don't care if this makes me any money, I'm just going to keep doing it, right? That's where you start. But you cannot stay in that same mindset forever, because then it's not going to pay you bills. Because if you say, I don't care, you can see a lot of podcasters and YouTubers doing this. They'll be like, oh, I don't care if anybody subscribes. I don't care if anybody reads. I don't care if anybody buys my stuff. I don't care if I make a penny off of my podcast. I'm just going to keep producing content. That's a great place to start, but you have to evolve. And that mindset will get you a long way and get you past what Seth Godin calls the dip, where you start off well and then there's this huge plateau where you will not see that much traction. You will go through tough times. Your people are not buying your stuff. They are not following you. They're not liking your stuff. And that's okay. You need to be able to push through that dip. And that's where your passion comes into picture. And usually when they say passion, it's not just about, oh, I want to do this so bad. It's also about how much you know about that subject, how much you care that you can create content even during those moments in time when nobody is paying attention. And that's what can get you over the hump or past the dip. And so you need to just keep pushing through and keep creating content. And then as you evolve, which you need to, because if you forever stay in that mindset of, I don't care if anybody, buys my stuff, then you're not going to critique yourself and optimize and track and monitor and do things better, because you just don't care if anybody reads it or hears it or not. But when you get to the next point, okay, I love this stuff so much. I'm so passionate about it. I would rather do it all the time. So I want to put my money where my mouth is. Stop telling me how passionate you are. Show me how passionate you are by investing some money. Stop endlessly looking for free stuff online. Stop endlessly asking on Facebook, in Facebook groups, what do you guys think? Because you can crowdsource a lot of things, but crowdsourcing business advice is really a bad thing.
Why is let me stop you there for a second. Why is crowdsourcing business advice a bad thing? Because a lot of times with a lot of the groups that people are in, they have not the fast track, but they have an inside, and they can ask somebody like you, Ravi. I reached out to you in a group, and here we're talking right now. If it wouldn't have been for social media, we wouldn't have had this opportunity, So you got the good and the bad with that, or what?
Yes, definitely. There's the good part is you have these amazing communities online where you can see other people's struggles and what they're trying, and you can get some idea about all that stuff. But if you want to do focused learning and you want to know where to get to and how to get there, you cannot ask general questions in a Facebook group because, for example, let's say if somebody in a podcasting group asks, what podcast host should I host with? You will get at least 50 different recommendations for podcast hosting.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And if you ask, what web hosting company should I host my website with? You will get another 50 recommendations. You ask, what tool should I use to produce my audio? Whatever you ask, you will get a varied number of responses. That is not going to help you. You need to pick somebody. And that's why I'm big on coaching and mentoring and following somebody. And if you had not reached out to me amidst all that noise, and again, the fact that you reached out to me must mean I must have said or done something at least half decent for you to call me and have me on your show. So it's always about, so there's one part, the first part is exposure, and that's where in such groups are where you get to stand apart. Because if you're just saying, I don't know who the best host is, but I use this, right? That will be the most of the responses. People usually, when you ask for them for recommendations, they'll almost always tell you what they are using, but not many of them can break down and say, this is why you need to use this. This is why you shouldn't be using this. And here's what happens. And here are the features. And here's what will happen if you go down this wrong path. And if you use this tool or this software, or if you do it this way, these are the benefits. These are the pitfalls. So if you want somebody to break it down for you, you need to go to the experts. You can't just go to a regular forum or Facebook group where there are so many people at so many different levels, and not all the best marketers are going to give away their best secrets in an open forum where it will not be valued, right? Because if you ask me, hey, how do you monetize content? And if I gave you a blueprint in a Facebook group, you're probably not going to be interested because there's 50 other responses there that is drowning out my advice, which is why that's a great place to start creating your 1,000 true fans, like I call it. You start cultivating your basic network. And from there, you have to be able to establish your credibility, your authority, and your expertise, and then you have to get to the next level. No good ever came from crowdsourcing business advice, other than, okay, you get a good head start, but that's where it stops because you end up getting more confused when you ask people whether it is an opinion on your artwork or your podcast logo or podcast hosting or WordPress hosting or what membership plugin should I use. So you will get a whole bunch of advice, and that cannot be good for somebody getting started.
Well, let me ask this on the membership stuff, because I mean, you came up with a membership program. Why would I want somebody to be a member of my podcast? Why wouldn't I just put it out there for everybody to grab and to listen to?
Right. So the first thing is, it's not just me; it's my wife too, Veena Prashant, who is the co-founder and co-developer of Digital Access Pass. So I cannot take much credit for that all by myself. One of the things with podcasting is that misconception is that podcasting is a business model. It's not. So podcasting is a content marketing tool, just like your email marketing or your Facebook marketing or your YouTube advertising. It is just one channel that brings you new customers and new fans, new followers, and where you get to podcasting is great because it's long form content, and if somebody is listening to you, that means they like you, they know you, they like you, and you can, what you say on the show will get them to trust you, and maybe from there they can become fans and followers and customers and so on. But podcasting by itself is not a business model, which means you have to figure out what is the goal of your podcast. Now, if your goal is to just get together with a buddy, have a couple of beers, and talk, shoot the shoot.
Well, just say shoot the Schmidt. I always like to say shoot the Schmidt because that's my last name.
Shoot the Schmidt, right? If you want to do that, then that's fine. But if your goal is to do something with your podcast, and after all, we only have so much time in a day, we have so many different content marketing strategies, So if you think podcasting is your only option right now, because there are definitely better options for the short term. So it's like investing in the stock market, right? They say, or investing in getting a financial portfolio, you have to have short term, you have to have long term, and you have to have high risk and low risk, right? You have to mix up your portfolio the same way. Just your podcast cannot be your only content marketing tool, because podcasting is slow burn. So let's say you are there, and the next step is, how do I get people to contact me? And I want to be able to know who my listeners are, so I can present them with tailored, messages, whether it's selling something or just providing value that they'll appreciate and they'll need. And so from there, I can build my business. So if you're not thinking of building a business behind your podcast, then obviously you don't need anything. You don't need to ask them to contact you. You don't need to give away any lead magnets, nothing, build a list. But if you're want to take your podcast to the next level, you want to know who the listeners are. You want to have a call to action that asks people to sign up for stuff. You want to give away free lead magnets. You want to give away paid lead magnets. You want to put additional members-only content behind a paywall, even if it's free, and then you want to be able to charge for some of the content. So if you see a lot of podcasters try to do this on Patreon.com, and Patreon.com is the second best way to create a members area, but the first best is having your own website where you control the platform, you control the payments. The payments are going into your PayPal or Stripe account. And if you want to build a business behind your podcast, then you have to create a paywall and create content that is worth paying for. And that's where the membership platform comes in.
Well, that makes some sense, because actually somebody told me I should put the Patreon link on mine, and then I thought, well, is it worth paying for it, or would people pay for the content that I deliver with my guests? And I honestly don't know the answer to that. How do you find that out?
Oh, there's only one way to find out. Put it out there, right? So you can, if you're not very technical, if for somebody who's not technical, they don't have their own WordPress site, obviously my first recommendation is to start your own website, have your own domain, send people through your website, and start creating offers, because at some point you have to stop creating and start promoting stuff. And too many podcasters are stuck in I got to create a podcast episode every day or every week, right? Nobody's holding a gun to anybody's head to create a podcast every week. It's okay to not create it every week. Maybe you can do it every other week, and you release an episode 1 week and take the entire next 10 days or 13 days promoting that episode. A lot of people forget that you need to promote it. Even free stuff needs to be promoted today, because if you go on Facebook or Instagram, everybody is an expert. Everybody is a social media expert. Everybody is building a list. Everybody has a report. Everybody has a webinar. So how do you stand out in that noise? How do you build a list of free people to start with? Then how do you sell stuff? So if you don't spend any time thinking about what is it you're going to promote and how are you going to make money, then all you have is just a hobby. And it's okay to have a hobby. I have a lot of hobbies. I watch the NBA. I watch NBA basketball. Following my favorite team, probably 2.5 hours every game, and that's probably 3 games a week. So I waste a lot of time on my favorite hobbies, but I'm not expecting to make any money from it. So if your podcast is a hobby, then knock yourself out. Do whatever you want. Sit in the basement, have a beer, talk to a friend, talk to whatever's happening latest in the world, politics or whatever it is, any current events. And ultimately you have to say, okay, what am I doing this for? Do I want to grow my audience? Do I want to be able to monetize my podcast? How will I monetize it? And will people just pay, like you said, you are at the point where thinking, will people just pay for interviews, to listen to interviews? They probably won't, because I'm not, Elon Musk smoking a doobie on your podcast, right? So
just call me Joe Rogan. That's fine.
Right. Okay. Right. So you're not Joe Rogan. I'm not Elon Musk. And so people are not going to pay. Maybe Joe Rogan, if he says, hey, guys, I'm launching a special thing, where I'll have this exclusive behind-the-scenes footage with my guests who come on the show. People will sign up. People will pay $5, $10, $20 a month, and it's because he has massive fans, and he's been doing this for a long time.
Right.
But you and I, we can't do that. So it's not just, you can't just take your existing content, putting behind a paywall and say, hey, the stuff that you are getting for free anyway, now you pay for it. That's not good enough. So you need to say, okay, who's your audience? What are their needs and wants? What content can I create that will make them pay even $5? Forget every month. What can I put out right now in the next 1 month that will make them pay $5 one time? Can you put out a Kindle book for $3, $2.99? You know, start from the lowest rung. You know, you can't. Nobody ever scaled Mount Everest in a day, so you've got to start at the rock bottom and say, okay, what is the one thing that I can create, a simple report or simple PDF that it's not easy to find online. And it's not just enough to Google a bunch of stuff, throw it all together in a PDF and say, here's my awesome report or PDF, right? You have to be able to provide value, and value comes only when you have done it yourself. So if I create, my latest book is on Alexa flash briefings. And so I have created it. I have struggled through it. I made a lot of mistakes. So I put the whole thing together in a simple $2.99 Kindle book, right? So it's easy to know who's going to buy it because you promote it. And if people don't buy it from you, then there's usually two problems. One is they don't care. Your audience doesn't care about what you're trying to sell, or you're reaching the wrong audience. So it's usually the wrong product or the wrong audience. And occasionally, of course, it's the content may not be great, but they won't find out that the content is not great until after they've read the PDF. So that will result in refunds. That's a whole nother subject. So the bottom line is you have the right message to market matched. Do you have the right message? You have the right market, your audience, and you have to create products for them. And if you're creating podcasts, free podcasts all the time, you don't have time to think about monetization. You don't have the time to think about promoting it. You don't have the time to think about, okay, what will they buy? Asking them on your podcast. Again, if you tell somebody, hey, I have a free survey here, go tell me what you want, nobody's doing that because there's no what's in it for me angle, right? If I'm listening to your podcast, if you tell me you have a survey that tells you what I want from you, that's nothing. It doesn't do anything for me. So you have to give me something in return I can give you my email address. Then you can contact me, keep providing value, jab, right hook. Right? I prefer jab hook because you're not just creating, providing 3 pieces of value and then 1 piece of pitching. It has to be integrated. You have to integrate your marketing into your content. And that's primarily the basis behind content marketing. So you have to think a lot about all of this stuff.
How do people find your products? Because I know you've got website, I know you've got software, you've got books, you've got a lot of things out there. How do we go about finding you and finding out the answers to the questions that we may have that I didn't get the opportunity to ask?
My website is at subscribeme.fm, and it's also available as a podcast. So you can search the word subscribeme.fm as one word in your favorite podcast app or Spotify or pretty much wherever you can find podcasts. And at subscribeme.fm, I have my podcast player right at the top, so you can listen to it right there. And if you scroll down further, you can see all of my products and services and my software, my other podcasts, my ebooks, my Kindle books, my Digital Creators Academy, which is currently, I'm having a discount membership right now. So everything about me, whether you want to contact me, my Twitter accounts, my Facebook, my Instagram, every single thing can be found at subscribeme.fm.
The BS with Bob Schmidt podcast is brought to you by Orange Computer. Find them online at orangecomputerlax.com. And by Tri-State Sound and Light. Find them online at tristatesound.com. Tell your story with microcasts by podcastforhire.com. The BS with Bob Schmidt podcast is a Podcast for Hire production.